How do you capture mystery, suspense, and intrigue with the camera? Let's talk about that while we break down the cinematography of this short film that I shot. Hi, my name is Benjamin McLean, and I'm a working cinematographer, and today we're taking a break from looking at your films to look at one of mine. This is a film that I was the producer and DP on, and it was written and directed by my brother Job. This film is a very neat psychological thriller short, and I'm very excited on how the cinematography came out. Before we get started, of course, there are massive spoilers, and it's only a 5-minute short film that I posted just now to my channel, so make sure you go and check that out before watching this. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the main motivation for the cinematography of this scene is I really wanted things to feel uneasy. We have this very peculiar situation that the protagonist has found himself in, waking up apart from a clone of himself. All of these sort of compositions and angles are there to sort of make sure that we're presenting what he's feeling from his perspective, but also everything's just a little bit off kilter and a little bit of an odder angle to sort of capture. Now this shot was, is the most neutral of all of it, but it's sort of necessary to sort of set the scene geometry and, properly understand how the concept works for this short. And because we had some compositing shots and VFX work that needed to go into this sequence, it really needed to be lit in a way that, there wasn't this sort of grip forest modifying each of the close-ups and everything. In order to, allow for some of that work to be efficient. I knew immediately how I wanted to light the scene with this sort of soft top-down lighting that still gives us a lot of shape to the face, but a lot of contrast to the background as well. And it allows us to shoot 360 without sort of needing to make any sort of lighting adjustments within the scene. This scene is lit with a large 4x6 frame with a one-stop silk diffusion on it. It has two 220 watt bicolor LEDs set to 2700 Kelvin to give us this warm look, and it is also to control the spill off the background and give ourselves this contrast back here. It's got about like a foot and a half of party cloth skirt around the entire thing, and also the frame is angled sort of slightly away from the back wall, shooting more towards like a back lighting ever so slightly towards our talent. It gives us this excellent shape across the nose whenever he's facing in this profile, and anytime of course his face is looking up, we have this nice warm soft lighting that sort of just creates this nice warm pull of light and allows us to shoot 360 within the scene without needing to change the setups as we went. I wanted to stop here and talk about something that I thought ended up really cool. Now we shot this in the middle of the day for scheduling reasons to shoot the later night stuff that night, and so we needed to black out the windows. However, instead of using black duvetine or some sort of black muslin to black out the windows, I opted for this really dark navy blue muslin to be hung on the outside of these windows. And what that did is, as the light sort of shined through, is it gave it this ever so slight blue cast, which kind of really sells this moonlight dark outside, whereas if it was just fully black, you wouldn't really get that. You'd have to sort of make those like duvetine sort of tents and then have some sort of light fixture out there to do that. But this is all just sunlight pushing through very dark navy muslin. It's almost black fabric, but it's not. It's when you look closely, it's navy blue, and it creates this just sort of like this texture to the windows that I think looks really cool. I opted to shoot this project on vintage lenses that were sort of cinematographed for their ease of use. It was the Helios 442, and the Mur 1B 37mm and the Nikkor 24mm. And I wanted these lenses because of their texture to sort of, not have such a clean clinical look for, something that's a, thriller that has lots of sort of like cringy sort of theme to it. And I opted to not really pull focus as the scene sort of organically changes and shifts, because I think that sort of augments the character's feelings that like, things aren't clear about what's happening to him. So I really like, these sort of shots right here where, focus is sort of set in the beginning of the scene, but it doesn't change as the scene moves on. I really appreciate frames like this, where we're able to sort of sell the effect with a body double down here, and have our main actor. Of course, he wasn't a twin. We just had the one sort of actor for this film. But, these low angles that really sort of show the room from an interesting perspective really help sell that sort of idea of, suspense and things are, not going well for this guy. And then it also, highlights just how well that lighting motif worked with the top-down sort of soft 4x6 frame. Like, we have excellent shape on the face here, we didn't have to do any sort of lighting changes or anything like that. I think every once in a while we would bring in like a tube light for some fill, so that we didn't, go straight black on the shadow side of the face. But and then these excellent, sconces in the room that just gave us little points of interest. It was just a great location, to sort of set up the intro to the film. All right, this scene was, lit with two lights, sort of sticking with the idea of just, trying to light the space that we were shooting in and not set up sort of a bunch of, we had a really small crew on this, so, having a grip forest or, a bunch of setups where we'd have to, constantly bring different flags and frames in to modify the light just wasn't really possible on this shoot. So it was sort of make sure we set up a world of lighting and then just constantly let the camera and scene live within it. For this, we had this sort of moonlight as, one of our, we sort of did this like sandwich of lighting, I wanted it to be motivated with this like outdoor house light sort of idea, but then also, have this moonlight. For the moon, we had that same 4x6 frame positioned high up in the sky over here, and we had a aperture 300D from the ground shooting up with a Fresnel on it into the frame. So that was about like 15 feet in the air to give us like a nice sort of softer moon, for this sort of stuff. And then this, warm thing that's supposed to be like a house light on the outside of the structure is a 4-foot tube just set to that same sort of 2700. And I think we added a little bit of green to it to sort of give it that like halogen, floodlight sort of feel. And it sort of worked for creating this shape, this shadow shape on this part of the face while sort of swallowing the talent with light from both directions. And I want to stop here just because this ended up being my favorite frame of this setup. It just shows that sort of lighting motif worked again really well for shooting 360, because we've got this nice moonlight that just creates this excellent silhouette on the back of the hair, and then the tube that's warming up from this sort of this house light, and then just happy little accident that we got an excellent little catch light in the eye as as he's sort of taking in his situation and sort of moving a mile a minute trying to get out of it. I shot this scene handheld. The opening scene was really slow and locked off movement because it was a character waking up to a world put in front of him that he sort of needed to catch up and figure out what was going on. But then when he sort of starts to make his decision about what he's going to do about it, things get really chaotic. So this scene I shot handheld to sort of match the character's panic and energy. All right, let's talk about the challenges of shooting car interiors with an actor that's supposed to be driving and wanting to do it safely. Now, obviously, since the character is going in and out of consciousness, we wanted to sort of, add that extra threat of it happening during operating a car. And you can't just do that while someone's driving a car. it's not going to work out very well for your talent. You can get the shot once. This was all shot with poor man's process, which is, of course, using a projector screen in the back here, to sort of give the illusion that the car is moving. But really, this car is just parked in my garage, and the actor is just doing a great job selling that it is movement. The handheld movement, I think I let the camera sort of rest on my knee and put my foot on the door frame of the car, and we had some grips that were in the back shaking the car, and I think tying the camera a little bit to the movement of the car just subtly sort of helps sell that effect that we really are just sort of in the car with him as it's moving. For light, we had 2 4-foot tubes pushing through the windshield just to give us, this catch light and this wrap on the face. And that's basically it. There was no other sort of lighting motif that we did for this. We shot all of the plate photography for the projector screen ourselves because we really wanted it to sort of match the look of the film and not just use some stock footage for it. We used my Gaffer's FX3. We did some suction mounting on the outside of a vehicle, and then I sort of had my gaffer just drive around, and I held a tube light out the window so we could get some level on the woods that we would sort of drive by, and we just drove around for about 45 minutes just to get different sides of the plate photography. And then I think what I did was I used a mask in Resolve to sort of create this fall off of headlights as they would sort of be brighter on this side of the frame and then fall off to darkness this way, sort of give that idea that everything's lit by the headlights of the car, and then it obviously gets darker as you get towards the back of the car. All right, this scene was shot in a public park at night, and we are pretty far off the trail. There was obviously no access to power, and we didn't want to wheel down a Jenny about a quarter mile through the woods. So this entire scene is just lit with 4-foot Pavo tubes on C-stands. And so just set to 5600 to give us this sort of moonlight. And we just made sure that we set up sort of like a long throw with the lights just out of frame. Sort of give us this, split moonlight look. We didn't want it to, be too rappy. We didn't want it to be too frontal. So we just made sure that it stopped right at the nose, gave ourselves some shape. I think it looks like we have some sort of kicker, and I can't remember if we used a third tube for that or not. I think in some scenes we definitely did want to create a silhouette a little bit and make sure that there was some light, just on some little details back here. I can't remember exactly how we did that, but if I had to guess, it's just like another, battery-powered tube light, throwing some stuff up there. All right, that is going to do it for us this week. Leave a comment below what you thought of the cinematography, and if you would have done anything differently. I read every comment, and am very excited to see what you have to say. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys soon, and make sure you keep those cameras rolling.